Let's go over the idea of on-command versus on-demand template processing. So hopefully you have at this point the basic concept, that is that when you apply a transform to an instance, there's a transform processor. That's something that steps through the transform one piece at a time and decides what's to do. It's like an interpreter, if you know that term from programming. It runs one line of that template or that XSLT, and then it goes on to the next line, the next line, the next line. So what we're talking about here is how do you direct the flow of the usage of different templates? We know that another base concept we know is that we can trap the processor right at the beginning, right at that first statement of, or right at the beginning of its processing by using the template match equals /, right? So when we say template, XSLT, XSL template, match equals /, that's going to trap the processor right at the beginning. What we've done there is an on-command methodology. We've said, okay, right at the very beginning, I'm going to take control. I'm going to write this match equals / template, and that's going to do what I say to do in the order I say to do it. That's the essence of on-command processing. We decide beforehand exactly what's going to happen, and then as we run the transform, the things that we said happen. Boy, that car's got bad brakes and there's smoke coming out of its wheels. Guy's in trouble. So in on-command, we decide beforehand what's going to happen, and it'll happen step by step by step by step by step. That's a very straightforward, usual way of doing processing, and the analogy inside of programming land is a monolithic program that runs one line at another, one line after another. When it needs a function or it needs some extra processing, it calls that extra processing. Okay, so we can see an example of this in your images. So we have an example of the on-command methodology. We have our first template, match equals /, capture the processor right at the first. Then we put out an H1 HTML command or an HTML tag. It says, I always run first, close the HTML, call a template named George. Notice we're commanding that template named George to run at this moment. The template named George puts in another H1 IRAN2, closes it, and then it terminates. We go back to the main template. The main template has nothing left in it, so it terminates. And now we have a simple output, I always run first, and then IRAN2. Okay, so another concept that's allied here that you may or may not understand right now, but if you do, it helps you understand this, and that's the idea of pushing and popping off the stack. We have a stack, and the stack contains all of the templates that we've been in or are currently in. And when we start this / template, that one's on the top of the stack. When we call the template named George, we push the / template and bring in the George template. If we called another template from George, we'd push the George template. When George is finished, when we have no more commands inside of George, George pops off the stack and we go to the next one under it, which was the /, right? So that's a relatively common way of doing programming. A less common, and let me just finish that little vignette by saying, this is the one that's kind of easy to understand. This is the one that's straightforward. This is the one that you may try to rely on until you realize you come to the day where I can no longer do it this way. I have to think of something more subtle. So if we always knew what to expect and we could always anticipate every circumstance, and circumstances, by the way, mean the occurrence of tags, right? The occurrence of elements and attributes that need processing. If we could always anticipate that beforehand, we could get away with just this on-command programming, because the on-command programming necessitates that we know beforehand what's going to happen. But really, the major power and what makes XML such a wonderful modeling tool is that it doesn't require that you know what's going to happen beforehand. It allows you through mechanisms, for example, like the choice, to say, I don't know which of these 5 tags it's going to be, it'll be one of them. Right? So right there you can see how it's going to be hard to anticipate what tag comes next. You don't know whether it's tag A or tag B because there's a choice between them. You can also make tags optional. So you don't even know if tag A is going to be there at all. Right? So we have this diversity. We also have, in addition to diversity, multiplicity. So we'll study later models of creating a paragraph. But now think of a paragraph. Paragraph has some text nodes in it, right? And then it may have some tags inside of it. It may have a cross-reference tag in it, or a bold tag, or an italic tag, or maybe not. It may have 10 bold tags or no bold tags. It may have a bold tag followed by an italic tag, followed by a bold, followed by an italic, etc., etc. And the variability and multiplicity of what can be inside that paragraph tag is infinite. And so we will never know a priori beforehand how to process that tag. We need something that's more subtle and sophisticated that'll allow us to process that tag no matter what it has. And so we create this, or we haven't created, but it has been created for us, another variety of programming our templates, and that's the on-demand method. On command means I make a command every time I want something to happen. On demand means that as a tag is found, the appropriate template that matches that tag will be invoked, used, and then you can either take command at that point and carry on using command, or you can further say, keep doing whatever is the right thing to do. So I would call this on-demand programming do the right thing. And do the right thing depends on having the templates that match all the tags that are in there. However, if it's a processing of a bold tag, for example, whenever the bold tag is found, the bold tag template will run. If the bold tag is never found, bold tag template doesn't run. If the bold tag comes 4, 5, 6 in a row, that same template will run 4, 5, 6 times in a row. If it's interspersed bold, italic, bold, italic, bold, italic, bold will run, italic will run, bold will run, italic will run.